Hi friends, this is Bhavik Mirsana. I'm a partner with the law firm Khaitan & Co. I specialize in corporate M&A and private equity practice, and I'm also a part of the life sciences and healthcare team. I have put together this video to take you through very quickly the provisions of the new drugs and clinical trial rules, and let's get started. The background, I think the drug rules governed the new drugs and clinical trials previously, and there were issues around patient safety and compensation payment, and then PIL was also filed before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court in 2012 ordered the government to come up with new rules. Of course, that took time. In the meantime, the government issued several notifications and circulars relating to patient consent, clinical trial sites, investigator, etc. And finally, in March 2019, 19th March 2019, the government came up with these rules. The one chapter which related to the EC for biomedical and healthcare research came into effect 180 days after the 19th March, and Part 10A and Schedule Y of the drug rules have been repealed now. Any inconsistency relating to the rules between these rules and the drug rules, these rules will prevail. So this slide is very important, as this is a snapshot of what is covered in the new rules. So what is covered is clinical trials, academic clinical trials, BA/BE study, which is bioavailability and bioequivalence study, import and manufacture of new drugs, investigation new drugs for clinical trial, BA/BE, examination, test and analysis, import and manufacture again commercially for marketing, which is sale and distribution, import and manufacture of unapproved drug for government hospitals and medical institutions. Any licenses required for manufacture or import in certain cases will still need to be obtained under the old drug rules, and registration is required for ethics committee for clinical trials, for BA/BE studies and BHR, and the study center for BHR is also required to register. So this is really the crux of the new what is covered under the new rules. So let's quickly get into what do we mean by new drug and investigation new drug, because this is the subject matter of the rules, and very important to understand what is covered. So any drug which includes an API or an active pharmaceutical ingredient which is chemical based, and a phytopharmaceutical which is herbal, which have not been used significantly in India and has not been approved for safety and efficacy by the CLA, these would be covered over here. Approved new drug with modified new claims, including indication, route of administration, dose or dosage forms, these will also get covered as a new drug. And two approved drugs as FDC or a changed composition of the FDC, or a new dosage form, or a new route of administration, or new indication. Basically, FDC is a fixed dosage combination, and that is also going to be covered over here as a new drug. Any modified or sustained release form of a drug, or a novel drug delivery system, that is also going to be treated as a new drug. A vaccine and a DNA, etc., will also be counted as a new drug. So as far as 1, 2 and 3 are concerned on your slide, these will remain new for a period of 4 years. As far as point numbers 4 and 5 are concerned, these will be treated as new drugs forever. Another important concept is the investigational new drug, which includes an NCE or NBE, which is new chemical entity or a new biological entity, and that is not been approved for marketing in any country, then that is also treated as investigational new drug, and that will be covered under this rules. Clinical trial again is important, and the subject matter of these rules, which is a systematic study, and it involves human subjects to generate important data which relates to clinical, pharmacological and adverse effects, with the objective of determining safety, efficacy and tolerance of such drug. Now, academic trial is a trial where it's on an approved drug, and it is for a new indication, a route of administration, dose or dosage and form, and it is only for academic purposes and research purposes. It's not going to be seeking any CLA approval. CLA is a Central Licensing Authority approval, and it is also not going to be used for any commercial promotional purpose, as I will cover it in the later slide. Clinical trial protocol is a document which is containing all background, objective, rational design methodology of the clinical trial, A global clinical trial is more than one country where the trial is being carried on. Phases again, I won't I won't go into detail of this, but essentially these are 4 phases are involved in clinical trial. The first 3 phases includes the testing of the product on varying number of patients with different objectives, and the phase 4 is after that product is launched, further studies is sort of conducted. Now, orphan drugs is a drug which is used for disease which affects less than 5 lakh people, and post trial access is actually usage of free drugs by the subject trial for a certain time, and this will be covered later on in my presentation. Other key definitions include bioavailability study, bioequivalence, biomedical, and health research. This is important because this is something that is not a clinical trial, as it is clearly mentioned in the definition, and it is only a study or a research about the disease or condition, which is detection and cause and evolving strategies for health promotion, prevention, and amelioration of disease and rehabilitation. So there is a difference between BHR and clinical trial. Ethics committee is of course the committee which will oversee the overall clinical trial, and the process for registration etc. will be covered later on in the slide. Adverse event is any event, and what is important is that it does not necessarily have a relationship with the treatment being given. And serious adverse event is of course any untoward medical occurrence during clinical trial resulting in death, permanent disability, or hospitalization of the trial. So these are key terms that needs to be done. Informed consent has been a subject matter of controversy since a long time, and this has been clarified now, and in these rules have clearly provided that you need to have a written consent in prescribed form. Legal representative have to give, where the person involved, subject trial cannot give consent himself. Where the subject trial or his representative are not able to read, understand, or in any manner comprehend and provide the consent in a proper manner, then an impartial witness has to be invited, and impartial witness is supposed to explain everything to the subject trial, and impartial witness needs to provide a sign and on the consent form. If it involves any child in a pediatric clinical trial, then the parent legal guardian needs to provide, and in matured minors and adolescents also need to sign on form. Audiovisual consent, which is very important, is required in case of vulnerable subjects, for new chemical entity and new biological entities, and for HIV and leprosy only audio consent is required, from privacy concerns of course. And several information needs to be provided to the subject trial so that he or she is aware of what he or she is getting into. That includes purpose of research, the duration of participation, description of procedure, alternative procedures or therapies, extent of confidentiality, whom to contact if any trials are there, certain additional information like when the participation of the trial could be terminated, etc. So all this information needs to be provided to the subject trial. Let's quickly go to the ethics committee for clinical trial and BA/BE study. They are required to be registered with 5 years validity. Once it is registered, CLA is the central licensing authority, has to consider within 60 working days, and once it is granted, then it is valid for 5 years. Renewal 90 days prior to the expiry, one needs to apply for renewal. As far as functions of the ethics committee are concerned, they include overall they are responsible for overall review and approving protocols, and overseeing the conduct, study progress, reporting any serious adverse events, preparing reports, discontinuation submission, and or informing the CLA for discontinuation of the trial. So they are responsible for all those aspects. Records are very important. They need to be maintained for 5 years. They include CVs of the members who are involved in the ethics committee, SOPs, all the correspondence, meeting agendas, minutes, all of that needs to be kept in sort of properly. Constitution, it includes 7 members, and 1 layman, 1 woman, 1 legal expert, 1 other related expert are all required to be a part of the ethics committee, and 1 or 50% of the members need to be affiliated with the organization or institution where the ethics committee has been formed. Proceedings, at least 5 members are required to be present for the quorum, and 1 each from clinician, legal, medical, scientist, and layperson need to be there. Any change in membership or constitution of the ethics committee needs to be intimated to the CLA within 30 days. Similarly, ethics committee for biomedical and healthcare research is also required to be registered. The process is a little different. It needs a provisional registration as soon as application has been made is granted for a period of 2 years, which is valid. After scrutinizing all the documents, the government would provide a final registration, and that would be valid for a 5-year period with renewal again 90 days before expiry. Constitution and other aspects are all covered by the national ethical guidelines for biomedical and health research involving human subjects or human rights participants. Clinical trial for new drugs and investigational new drugs. Now, any company wanting to start clinical trial will need a CLA permission or approval, as I say. CLA is Central Licensing Authority again, and EC needs to approve the protocol. And once the permission has been obtained, then it's valid for 2-year period. The most important part here is the deemed approval concept, which says that if once the company makes an application to the CLA, within 30 working days the CLA needs to respond. If there's no response, that's a deemed approval. However, the company cannot start the trial immediately. Before starting, it needs to inform the CLA, and once the CLA is informed, the CLA has the right to still oversee the trial and can come back to the company if they have any issues. Several conditions are attached to the approval or permission given for clinical trial. They include EC, an ethics committee needs to be constituted. If the site where the trial is conducted does not have its own EC, then the participants or the applicant needs to get approval from EC or constitute an EC within the same city, any other EC from the same city or within 50 kilometers range. EC is responsible again for oversight. EC needs to inform the CLA of its approval of within 15 working days. SAE reporting, as I mentioned, injury, death, the permanent, all these cases, EC is responsible and needs to provide report to the Central Licensing Authority. Post-trial access, as I explained, needs to be provided. The situation in which post-trial access can be provided is if there is no alternative therapy or trial useful, and the trial has been useful, and the subject or his heir has consented in writing, and the investigator and the ethics committee decide that it is important to provide these subject trial the drugs, free drugs, and also the time period for which the drugs should be provided, are all left to the discretion of investigator and the ethics committee. The academic trial again is a trial of the approved drug, as I explained, and it needs an EC approval. Here also there is a concept of deemed permission. This comes into play when there is any doubt in the mind of EC whether it is a clinical trial or an academic clinical trial. It needs to submit to the Central Licensing Authority, and the Central Licensing Authority needs to revert within 30 working days, and if they do not respond, then there's a deemed permission concept. And of course, academic trial also needs to comply with the guidelines of ICMR from time to time. BA/BE study, again, it's similar to clinical trial where you need CLA permission and EC approval for the protocol. And the validity of the permission here is 1-year period, and there is no deemed approval concept for BA/BE study as such. And every person who's involved should follow the principle as set out in first schedule, and the conditions are very similar to the clinical trial. Registration of BA/BE study center. So where the BA/BE studies is carried on is referred to as study center, and registration is again required with the CLA, and it is valid for 5 years with the renewal. For renewal, you have to apply 90 days before expiry. Conditions that have to be attached is, of course, this center is open for inspection by the Central Licensing Authority as well as the state licensing authorities, and with or without notice they can come and they can inspect your premises. Again, you need to have an EC. If you don't have an EC, you follow the same process. You have to be enrolled, very important, the clinical trial as well as the BA/BE study need to be enrolled with the clinical trial registry, and all the SAE report needs to be submitted to the CLA within 14 days, and if there's any change in constitution of the BSc without the study center ownership, then within 30 days it needs to be intimated to the CLA. Compensation, again, sponsor is responsible to provide compensation and medical management in case of death, injury or permanent disability to the subject trial. When is it set that it is that that such death, permanent disability, or injury is caused due to the subject trial. A to G are the deemed sort of events where they are sort of referred to as a cause of the injury or death. So adverse effect of the investigation product, or if there is a violation of the protocol, or there is a negligence by the sponsor, failure of the investigational product to provide intended therapeutic effect, or where there's not standard of care has not been provided, or the adverse effects due to concomitant medication has happened, or in any all these cases, basically these are all deemed events when one can say that the injury, death, or permanent disability has happened due to the clinical trial. What is the procedure? The procedure is that within 24 hours the investigator has to inform the CLA, the sponsor, as well as the ethics committee. So the first responsibility is on the investigator, and if he does not do so, he has to provide reasons as to why he is not doing so. The CLA constitutes an expert committee, and that expert committee expects to get a report as forwarded by the CLA from the investigator, the ethics committee, as well as the sponsor. After evaluating the reports from all these participants, expert committee recommends a compensation to the CLA. CLA considers and finally passes an order for the sponsor to pay the compensation, and sponsor has to pay it within 30 days of the CLA order. In case of permanent disability, again the process is very similar, except that CLA may or may not constitute an expert committee, and they may decide on their own. Medical management anyways has to be provided irrespective of the compensation part. The next is the manufacturing, where you're manufacturing a drug or an investigational new drug for any clinical trial, BA/BE, or examination, test, or analysis. Again, CLA permission is required for such manufacturing. It is going to be, of course, a limited manufacturing activity, and the permission is valid for 3 years. In exceptional cases, of course, the government may increase the time period. What are the conditions? Very important. Only for the purpose you can manufacture. It's not commercial manufacturing. It's not supposed to be sold in the market. Small quantities need to be manufactured. Clear records have to be maintained as to what drugs have been manufactured, persons to whom it has been supplied. Any substandard, expired, or damaged drugs need to be destroyed. Inspection needs to be provided whenever required. Labeling requirements are there, where the drugs are kept in a particular container with label containing lot of information, like the manufacturer, the drug name, etc. And no one can alter this no one can alter the labeling. Import again is very similar and same, and most important is that if you see in the previous slide, in the manufacturing part, for manufacturing permission is there, but in addition to that you also need a license under the drug rules. So that is what you need to get for manufacturing. In the import situation, of course, there is no license required under the drug rules. For manufacturing, you need a license, but in import for this studies and for clinical trial, you don't need a license. Otherwise, the conditions are pretty much the same as manufacture, and I won't repeat them. Import for sale, now this is a commercial. Whenever any company wants to import drugs for marketing and for commercial use, CLA permission is required, of course, and depending on what drug you are importing, different kind of information will need to be provided. So for example, API, which is a new drug not approved earlier, certain kind of information needs to be provided. It's a new drug with an unapproved molecule, again another information will be provided. A new drug to be marketed has been approved as a new drug in the country, so that again separate information will have to be provided. New drug to be marketed for new claims, indication, dosage form, route of administration, again FTC, again separate information has to be provided, and phytopharmaceutical. Most important aspect here is that no clinical trials are required. In certain situations there is an exemption availability, and that is when the drug is already approved in one of the developed countries, which is approved as specified by the CLA, such as America, Australia, Japan, etc. Then no further clinical trials are required, and you can start marketing. Of course, CLA is if in another situation where CLA has already permitted global clinical trial, and Indian trial is still going on, but it has been approved again in an approved country, then no clinical trial is required in that situation, and the drug can be marketed. Of course, there is it is important that no probability or evidence on the basis of which the existing knowledge that it is going to act differently on Indian population as compared to the original trials which were conducted. An applicant has given an undertaking that phase 4 will be conducted. Of course, phase 4 trial can also be exempted in cases where there is a life-threatening disease, serious disease, disease of special relevance, there's an unmet condition, it's a rare disease or an orphan drug. Animal toxicology can also be sort of modified or relaxed in case of new drugs approved by and marketed for a period of more than 2 years. The conditions to import, of course, they would have to confirm with the CLA specifications, labeling requirements. Post-marketing surveillance is required to be adhered to, where periodic safety update reports have been provided. Any adverse reactions need to be reported, intimated to the CLA. No claims other than for those which are approved can be marketed for. So one cannot just start marketing a drug for a different claim or indication. It has to be as per the approval, and specimen of the carton, labels, package, etc. needs also to be approved. And each consignment shall be accompanied with a test and analysis report. That is important. And license to import, as I said, you need to get separately under the drug rules. This is just a permission under these rules. License is still required under the old drug rules. Marketing again is only for the approved indication, and importer, if it is marketed in India for a different indication, importer has the defense that he was not involved in any manner in such sort of unauthorized marketing. Manufacturing for commercialization, again the same situation, the same provisions as import, so I won't repeat them. Conditions are also pretty much the same. Again, I won't repeat them. License, as I said, is required for manufacturing. In addition to the permission under these rules, separate license is also required under the old drug rules. This is again, government hospitals and medical institutions can sort of import unapproved drug as well, and the situation where it can be imported is where for life-threatening disease or disease causing serious permanent disability, and a drug has been approved in the country of origin. Then this can be imported. License is granted by the CLA in this case with validity of 3-year period. The licenses to import, it has to be a maximum of 100 dosages per patient is permitted, and in exceptional cases, of course, larger quantities can be approved. Important conditions to import unapproved drugs for government hospitals includes, the license needs to be displayed in the institution, it needs to be stocked properly, it should be exclusively used, the drug has to be tracked, and proper records needs to be kept as to where the drugs are moving and how they are administered. Half-yearly reports need to be submitted, and substandard drugs need to be destroyed. Manufacturing of unapproved drug, this is a little different from import, and what is required here is a consent of the patient separate, in addition to the import situation which I just explained. For manufacturing, you need a consent of the patient for whom the unapproved drug is being manufactured or is legal heir, and an application to the EC or the government hospital for specific recommendation is required. After such recommendation comes from the EC, the CLA can grant or reject approval within 90 working days, and the validity is for 3 years period. License to manufacture again is required here from the under the drug rules. For import of such unapproved drugs, no separate license was required, as I said earlier. I'm sorry. So there was no separate license required for the import part of the importing of the unapproved drugs. However, for manufacturing of the unapproved drugs, you would still need license. So that's another difference. Dosages, again, the point is same. Conditions are again similar for case of manufacturing as well. Submission, as far as submission, this is an interesting concept that you can actually go and meet the officials before and after your application. You make your application. Before the application, if you want to get some clarifications on legal or procedural requirements, and if you want to get some clarification relating to sale process or import license, some additional fees are there. But for both pre and post submission, you need to submit certain documents, pay certain fees, and you can get a meeting with the officials, and you can get your clarifications in that meeting. I think that's an interesting concept. So that's about it, friends. I think if you have, I hope you sort of found this short video relevant and useful. Look forward to doing some more. Thank you.